Hello everyone, Scott here again, and I'm finally going to get a chance to introduce to you the details of what we're going to do in this new mindful running program. So we have a little chart here, kind of outlines the whole process. What's important to notice in the center of the pyramid is that we move from injurious movement, inefficient movement, impaired movement, whatever all those terms might imply, to healthy movement. So this is what this is about. We have said that many people make the mistake of having only the strength and stretch paradigm in their self-care and performance toolbox, their rehab, prehab toolbox. So we want to expand that because, we'll explain this, but there are so many other options than that initial paradigm. We don't want to be limited, and we can do some powerful things if we move into the area of mindful practice. So from injurious movement to healthy movement. And my story of exploring these things goes back to when I fell off of a roof. I'm using the term injurious movement. I could have used the other ones, but an injury is so concrete, we all understand what that is. And at that time when I fell off the roof, and there's a lot to that story, but I couldn't run as I could before. This turned out to be, after a broken ankle healed, it turned out to be a movement pattern in my knee that physical therapy could not address. And at the time, I felt anytime you're injured, you feel weak, and you feel weak in every aspect of your person. And I felt like something had been taken away, and also my feelings even ran to the desperate. I was desperate for answers. So imagine yourself anytime you have even a minor or a serious injury. Imagine what that's like, or feel what that's like right now, or even a feeling of I cannot reach my potential. Both of those are opposite feelings toward what you get in healthy movement. So maybe you're feeling right now some of those things that I felt. As you move towards healthy movement, that's a more exuberant feeling, a more grateful feeling, as if you were actually taller in your whole self. Definitely a happier feeling. So how do we accomplish this? Well, we have 3 pillars that we're going to talk about today: your bones or your skeleton. And by the way, when I post this, please put your questions below the video. I hope you have questions. You should have questions, because we're going to be talking about something that is beyond or different from the standard running industry advice. So you may like using foam rollers, doing exercises and doing stretches and so on. But we're going to be focusing on something different today. So again, I hope you have questions, and I'd like to hear them. So the first pillar of what we're doing in helping people, helping people with the things that have helped me so tremendously. The first thing that we're doing in moving from injurious movement to healthy movement is examining the first pillar, which is your bones or your skeleton. Why would I want to do that? Well, as you know, a lot of running injuries involve the joints. A lot of day-to-day living year by year involves the joints. And the joints are where the bones meet. So that is an obvious place of focus for us. The other thing is, and what we want is good alignment in the bones. We'll explore what that means. So if we have good alignment through the bones, we're actually keeping the joints healthier because we were using the entire joint surfaces instead of one tiny area that we lean on. So that's a healthy thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, in terms of performance or ease or efficiency or enjoyment, the bones themselves are where the actual forces of movement and running are transmitted. If the bones are aligned well for the activity that we're doing, we also are able to use ground forces and our forces more efficiently in a way that makes a huge difference. Now, the third thing that we're going to talk about with the bones or your skeleton, maybe I should have mentioned this first, it's very important, is this helps us expand our normal paradigm of self-care, better performance, and so on. Why does it do that? I am a Feldenkrais practitioner. That is a form of somatic education. And Dr. Feldenkrais stated, or gave a talk once in which he said, and we're now familiar with this idea, that if a child is born, what do they have? They have a skeleton. Skeleton, of course, is what holds us up in conjunction with the other systems. So what do we have? We have a skeleton. But the skeleton cannot do a thing by itself. It needs the muscles to move the skeleton. You've heard of muscle memory. There is no muscle memory. Movement patterns are stored in the brain. So the muscles cannot do a thing by themselves. They need the nervous system, the brain and the central nervous system. So therefore we have the nervous system controlling the muscles, which controls the bones. And you see that the muscles in this illustration are only a go-between between the nervous system where the movement patterns are stored and the bones. So instead of making the muscles the primary thing we look at, let's go ahead and make the end results, the bones, the thing that we look at. That changes the paradigm from the muscles being the most important to the nervous system, and then the end result, the bones being something to focus on. The muscles are a go-between. So we've done three things with that. We have defined the bones and skeleton as the system that not only holds us up, but transmits the forces of our motion, hopefully properly, and also helps us change or expand our paradigm of movement. So we're going to focus on the bones, which is actually, by using the muscles, what we want to do is get those bones in good alignment for every movement we do, which may seem complex, and it is. But viewing the bones as the transmitters of force is a fairly simple idea. How do we accomplish that? So there we come to the next pillar on our way from injurious, impaired, or inefficient movement, unsatisfying movement, to healthy movement. The next pillar is practical movement lessons. We cannot get the bones in proper alignment unless the nervous system communicates to the bones, and that's what it's doing, through the muscles. You may have heard that much of the improvement in a beginning strength program is a neurological improvement. In other words, the nervous system gets more coordinated, more efficient at using the muscles, at firing the proper fibers at the proper time in order to move the bones. So we have those two pillars. You can't move the bones or learn to move them better, your skeleton, without a way to accomplish that. So practical movement lessons. In our system, we have something called the awareness through movement lessons. And that is an efficient or practical way to give us the ability. We've said that that mindful practice is the fastest way to improve your movement. That's what we want. We want to feel better. We want to feel stronger. We want to feel that we're using what we have in an efficient way, which means in a strong way, in a pleasant way, in a way that makes us feel more powerful. Those are good feelings. So practical movement lessons. That's a chance to explore maybe two different things. One is, can we slow down and pay attention to how we are doing movements, to how we are doing what we do? Can we do that? So it's a chance to explore by using one of these practical movement lessons. So that's one thing it is. It is also possibly a way to very much clarify and explore some basic things that we need to know in running. And that means maybe I want to know how and when to use the glutes and how not to use the glutes, because there's a lot of contradictory information being given out about that. Or maybe I want to empower myself by knowing how to activate the arches of my feet and coordinating them with the rest of my movement. So those are specific things. Maybe I know there's so much advice given about how to use your core. Maybe I want to know and feel what my proper core action is. So three things we listed with the bones. One, they're our support system that transmits motion efficiently. Two, they are where the joints are. And by the way, if you keep your joints in proper alignment, you don't have what's called musculoskeletal injuries, because the muscles are not overworking either. The bones are doing the load, taking care of making movement easier, making it unnecessary for the muscles to overwork. So we have three things there with the movement lessons. We have practical ways to actually answer a particular question, and we also have the idea of simply slowing down and becoming more attentive to what you do. And here we learn that the smallest change can make a huge difference. So we move on to the third pillar. And the third pillar is awareness, and I have that over the top of the pyramid also. And we could have moved through the other slides. There we have awareness. It is the glue that holds the three pillars together. And it turns a movement lesson into a lesson of movement exploration and mindful practice. In other words, we don't just do the movement lesson. If we did that, we might learn a little bit from it. But we're also learning this third thing that makes the movement lessons important or efficient, It's also a standalone thing. If we wanted to look at it that way, we could view it as a standalone thing. So if we had only awareness, only the ability to sense minor differences, the minor difference between one movement and another, we would have all we need, but I have to qualify that because that is the main thing. That's the point of this course. That's what mindful practice is employing this ability to improve our awareness a little bit of what we're doing, which makes a huge difference. You could take that quality away on its own, but if you use that to improve yourself, it might take a very long time, lots of attention, moving your attention from the parts to the whole for a very long time. And with the practical movement lessons, that time is shortened immensely. So they work together. Awareness is a standalone quality that needs to be embedded into these movement lessons. So you want to keep that in mind as you go through the program. So what does this program entail? It will be 4 separate hour-long, with discussions also, movement lessons that are done in detail. They will answer some of the questions that I already brought up. So we will have 1 lesson a week for 4 weeks, and the second session in that week will be some further instruction and Q&As. So that will be a chance to ask any questions you've had during the week while you're doing the lessons. So we have 8 sessions. So that's 6 to 8 hours of live training. And that will comprise most of what we're doing in the program. So let's go ahead and see if we can make this a little bit practical. What we're going to do is, first, I'm going to ask you to stand up and come to a comfortable place of standing. You're going to stand in one spot, but not rigidly. You can shift your weight a little bit. It's very hard to stand absolutely still, and I'm not asking you to do that. So as you do that, just notice you're standing. What can you notice about it? How does it feel? How is your alignment of your head, your chest, your low back, your pelvis, your knees, your feet? What do you feel there? And now I'm going to ask you to direct your attention towards your bones. You can direct the attention that you have to the bones in your feet in a general way. But now let's particularly focus on the bone in the lower leg. We call it the shin bone or the tibia. Your main weight-bearing bone in the lower leg. Focus on that for a minute, and then focus on the femur or the large thigh bone. So you're just focusing on your leg bones, and see if you can feel how they carry your weight. And feel, are you leaning forward, backward, left, right, more on one side than the other? Is there a way that those bones could bear your weight a little bit more? It's simply a question. Notice and observe. Don't try to change too much. Noticing and observing is enough. Don't do more than that. Notice your pelvis and your spine and your chest and your head. Is there any way that your skeleton could be arranged in a way in which you feel, first, let me ask you, can you feel any muscles holding you up? And if you can't, lean slightly forward and slightly back. And see now if you felt any muscles activate in your posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, or in your thighs and your shins, your abdomen. What did you feel? And then look at that and come to some kind of a neutral place and see if you can let go of some of the muscles that you think are holding you up. Because it takes very little to hold you up if the bones are aligned well. And see if you can notice any difference between how you were standing initially and how you're standing now. When you're conscious of your support, you notice it and you see if you could do a little bit less to stand. So this is not the lesson that we will do in the class. We'll do something more extensive. Maybe we'll come back to some of this. But these are extensive movement lessons that give you around 45 minutes to actually sense what you're doing so that you can improve all of this. So let's go ahead and why don't you just shake it out, walk around for a minute. And we could do one or two little mini lessons. Again, I hope you do have some questions here. So come back to standing and have your feet about hip width apart. Maybe turn your feet out just a little bit, slightly. And then notice the weight on your feet. More on one foot than the other, more on the fronts of the feet or the back, the sides or the inside. Pay attention to something you don't usually pay a lot of attention to. Where's the weight on your feet? Now pause and just relax for a moment. And then come up and standing in the same position, could you take one deep breath in and notice, did you get taller or shorter? Did anything at all happen? Did you notice anything in the rest of your body when you took one deep breath in? And then relax. Just be good to yourself and stand there loosely. All right, now, could you bring the weight to the insides of your feet and notice whether you got taller or shorter all the way to the insides of your feet. Notice if anything happened in the knees and hips. Notice what happened in your arches. Come back to standing the way you were and relax a bit. Now bring the weight to the outsides of your feet and notice, did anything happen in your knees, in your hips, in your pelvis, maybe in your chest? What happened in your arches? Relax. Then do that one more time. Bring the weight that you're carrying into the ground on the outsides of your feet. Notice what's happening in your arches. Maybe allow them to be activated, whatever that means for you at this time. Take one deep breath in. Notice what happens in your shoulders, in your pelvis, in your hips, in your knees. And if you've allowed this to happen from the feet on upwards, do you have a sense of better connection, a sense of connection to the ground? Maybe you feel more open and taller. Maybe you feel that. If not, you need a more extensive lesson. All right, please relax. Now let me tell you a little bit more about the program. This program is going to be 4 weeks long, 6 to 8 hours of live training with, anyway, it's all live training, and this is a beta program, which means you get all of those hours as I'm only going to take 2 to 5 founding members for this program. 2 to 5. You get all those hours of coaching in a smaller setting, and you get the program for half price. Those hours of coaching normally cost $9.97. You will get it for $4.97. I'm going to, of course, there's a full guarantee if you do all the sessions and do not feel that you receive benefit and something new and powerful in your toolbox and something that can help you from now on, then you get a full refund. There's also full phone support. And one more thing I want to mention is the program is only open until Saturday. So we have Wednesday today. I'm going to put a link below for you to join the program. And let's do that now. Okay, so also you have several payment plans. You do not need to pay this all at once.